I'd like to call this Standing Committee of the Public Safety Committee to order on December 15th, 2025 at 5 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Ron Dunwoody.
Here.
Dan Roberts.
Here.
Gary Payson Jr.
Here.
We're here tonight early for this meeting because Captain Brandel had some items he wanted to bring up for possible discussion and possible decisions. He did mention earlier that you would like to move numbers 6 and 7 to the forefront tonight.
I think we could, that'd be best. I think those are two require the most discussion likely.
Does anyone have any objections?
No.
No? All right. We'll move forward with that then. Item number 6 on it is discussion and possible decision regarding proposed police department vehicle use policy number 703.
All right. First of all, thank you guys for coming in early tonight. I appreciate your time. So this policy is a vehicle use policy. The basic component here, I guess the biggest component here is going to be that we want to open it up to allow officers to take vehicles home, off duty to commute back and forth to work. By opening that up under our eligibility requirements, only 4 officers would be allowed to do that this time. It would be officers that reside mainly in the city or be a part of a special unit team, either SWAT or mobile field force. So officers that live in town, or like I said, those specialty teams, so they can respond kind of rapidly to when they are called out and respond to calls directly from home. Obviously, and if you look at the agenda there, the memorandum, it lays out kind of the pros and cons of the program. We obviously feel strongly that it would definitely be a benefit to our officers to have this ability to have a take-home car. It would give us more presence in the community as we kind of commute back and forth from homes. That was also one of the things that was brought up when some of the officers left our department. They left to another agency that had take-home cars, and that was one of the things that they had brought up when they left. So that's kind of what ignited this discussion in our department, and kind of had us look into this a little deeper and come up with this policy to move forward.
I'm going to ask Alderman McClory, you've had experience with this with the Sheriff's Department. How did that work for you, and what are your thoughts on this?
Initially, in the infancy, it was only for the command staff, and then it continued to evolve, and then it was when I left a few years back, it morphed into you can have a take-home car as long as you live within the Walworth county limits. So those that lived in Jefferson, Rock, Walworth, Kenosha were not allowed. So it seemed to work out okay. Obviously, there were certain things you could, or the large majority of things you could not use that car for. It was your company car. You used it to go to work and come straight back to work. You didn't stop and buy groceries on the way home, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You didn't, pick up your kid at school because your wife's car was in the shop. There was the biggest thing was, like I said, it was to and from work only or to and from calls only, and that was it. And you had to live within the county proper. Had a few, like I said, some of the examples I just cited may or may not have been things that we addressed and clarified for other people. So, but it is a nice perk, to have a take-home car. It is a selling point. Some agencies don't allow it. And if you've got the wherewithal and the financial backing, because there is going to be an impact, it's going to be more wear and tear on the car, going to be more gas on the car, oil changes, tire rotations, etc. Again, won't be huge, but there will be an impact. I'm not sure how far away, if they're not in the city proper, Joel or Captain Brandel want to allow that. I know that's up for discussion, but for us, we made a hard, fast line that if your residency was not in Walworth County, sorry, even if you were literally in Burlington or Whitewater, which actually in some cases was closer than people that lived in Walworth County, you still couldn't do it. So that's where I sit.
So I can address a couple of those points. We do limit to a 15-mile radius of Elkhorn. So there will be some far out corners of the county that they could not reside and be eligible. But it does cover the majority of the county, that 15-mile radius.
Okay.
And majority of the officers that are eligible are in the Elkhorn I'll call it common area. One's in town and two are just north of town, so.
What are your proposals or your thoughts right now as far as who would be participating in this?
Who would participate?
Who
Oh,
would be participating?
Sure, it's a voluntary program, but I mean, if all four took a car that we offered, it'd be myself, Sergeant Croak, who lives in town, Sergeant Rayfield, who lives just north of town, and Detective Warland, who lives to the southeast of the county, down by Sharon, I believe.
Detective Rayfield, is he on the SWAT?
Yes, Rayfield's on the SWAT team.
Get that clarified.
Yep.
Because that would have been one of mine that I would have considered and thought would have been a priority to have a vehicle to take home. Mr. Payson, do you have any thoughts? Oh, silly question.
Everybody understands that this is actually considered income, and they'll be charged, right?
If you're commuting from and work, to and from only, I don't believe it is. But I believe if
don't
you
know
do
about
anything
that.
extra, I believe it's outside that.
If
But
it's a company car and it's not used for, traveling to and from work is not considered work. That's something you guys are gonna probably wanna clarify. But in my history is that you were charged miles for that. It was considered income.
Sure.
Because I don't get paid to drive to work. And that's the same philosophy that they have when they implemented those types of things.
At the county, you were on duty as soon as you got in the car for insurance purposes. So you literally would get in your car, start it up in your driveway and say, 511, I'm en route to the sheriff's office. And then if you got in a crash or something happened, you were covered. And they never went, we never, I could, you know, they may have handled it incorrectly, but we did not consider that income or taxable or whatever. But you were on duty from the moment you pulled out of your driveway and until you returned home from work.
I think I saw something in here about IRS tax implications here.
Yeah, I
Right.
know,
there's a, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I know Captain Brandel included in the policy that that's kind of responsibility is thrown back on the employee
Mhm.
specifically, so that we as a city don't have to worry about that. It's thrown back on them to make sure that they're reporting correctly, so to speak.
So if we're doing that, then that would fall in line with not like the county, but like what I suggested is probably the case.
It very well could, again, that'd be that individual responsibility of the member themselves to report correctly.
You know, when I read through this, we just want to make sure that that is crystal clear on which way it goes. So there's no surprises, because when it comes to council, even though most everybody's here, that should still be a question. To make sure,
Certainly.
okay? So yeah, I had a question.
Oh, Lord. Is there any other discussion on this item? Any other points, Mr. Mayor?
Good. My concern is, I thought I saw in your memo, that to make this work effectively, we'd need a couple more units, a couple more cars.
At this time, it would be fine. We have enough that would cover the road, and with the officers that take them home and bring them back, we would cover our shifts. If this expanded in the future, we had more officers join these teams, or move to town, which I think would be another great tool for us to get people moved back to community, then we would have to in the future, but at this time, we wouldn't have to expand our fleet.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Dunwoody, you mind if I? Yeah, just from a financial perspective, it definitely causes concern, the fact that we might have to buy more vehicles in the future. Again, when it comes to PD vehicles, we can't bond for them, so the only way we've been able to pay for them is through funds in our capital equipment replacement fund, which again, we've only been able to really fund that in recent years through savings due to vacant positions. So if those positions are no longer vacant and or the city has to deal with future budget challenges, there's just not gonna be the money to be able to buy those vehicles. And so you could be in a situation where, you know, you now have officers who are, the city's not able to provide the vehicles for the program. So, that's just the big concern for me. Obviously, any additional wear and tear on the vehicles at a time when, again, our budget is strained is a concern. Any extra fuel is a concern. So, you know, financially, this is just another thing that the city would be taking on potentially, at a time when, again, we only raised our levy by $19,000 for operating expenses, for '26. So, even if this is a couple $1,000s, it's still, extra money. So it's just a concern. Plus you got more liability, obviously, with officers now driving, city vehicles further, in the event that somebody's driving from Sharon, for example. Sharon's not particularly close, they're driving on potentially county roads and more likely to have potentially accidents. So, and one thing too is if you read the policy, it says that, officers have no obligation to respond. In fact, if they see something happening, they're supposed to just radio in. And so, there's the question as to what do they, what's the benefit to the city in terms of public safety if they're not really responding while they're in their vehicles. So that's just a question I have. Something else too, I think there's an issue with a multi-jurisdictional component. It's certainly one thing to have this program for officers who live in the city, because obviously it's reduced amount of mileage if they're driving to and from home and they live in the city. The multi-jurisdictional, it seems like, talking to Chief Christensen, I think he would support having a more limited rollout. If we were to try this, have a more limited rollout just in the city, see how that goes, and then you could certainly reevaluate. It doesn't sound like there's a need for the multi-jurisdictional component. SWAT does sometimes get called out, but the other mobile force, at least talking to Chief Christensen, he's not aware of when they've ever been called out from home, such that they wouldn't really ever need to immediately drive from their home to an incident. So I would suggest too that A, limiting it to city residents only, and two, to the extent that you allow SWAT officers, not, limit it the multi-jurisdictional component just to SWAT and not include other multi-jurisdictional. So just some thoughts.
Considerations?
All good points.
And I guess I'll just, maybe I wasn't clear earlier. The ability to take action or not take action didn't impact us, a la just like state patrol. You're on duty anytime you're in your car and you're in the whole state. Well, for the people from our department, you're on duty anywhere in the county. You leave Sharon, you come across a domestic, it's not a felony in progress. You could, depending on the policy of each department, you might have to call it in. You might not be as comfortable taking action because you're just literally driving into the city limits of Elkhorn where you have jurisdiction. So that is a consideration.
And I would say a couple points here. We don't ask that they don't take any action. Obviously, they're going to report anything, but if it does require anything that may be bodily harm or more serious, they can act in that under state statute.
Right.
So in those circumstances, they would be able to respond directly and address that issue. As far as the wear and tear, I think having a single car, officers responsible for one vehicle, that would reduce our maintenance and probably increase the longevity of the vehicles. So we keep them longer potentially, the ones that are assigned. We do see that officers take better care of everyone assigned just to them. So that would minimize some of that wear and tear cost, but it's still there.
So do we have a consensus on maybe some more revisions and some more thought going into it, and bring it back for consideration at another time? Or do you want to?
For this particular one,
Yes.
I would say we probably should get some more data on that, based on some of the feedback that's come up in here. I'm not opposed to it, I'm just saying that we should probably get more, make sure all our ducks are in a row.
Which data, I guess, would you like to see?
Well, some of it just kind of touching, even what Adam brought up was similar things that I was kind of thinking of, but didn't jump in, but the concern of budgetary, how that's gonna affect us long-term. Because once we start going down this road, a couple of years ago, we couldn't even get a replacement squad car, right? So the last thing you want to do is have this system in place, say, okay, now we only have one available, we got 4 people, who gets it? I know there's a system in here to get it, but as things are wearing down. But I will tell you, the one thing that kind of caught my ear is if we're going to take better care of our car, if it's actually our car assigned to us versus not being assigned to us, I've got a serious problem with that statement. Because if you're not going to take care of the car when it's not assigned to you, why?
Well, I'm not saying that wouldn't be better taken care of, I'm just saying that when there's just one officer assigned, that's just one officer's miles, one officer's use, versus 2 or 3 running 24 hours a day. It would reduce that kind of wear and tear. We require officers to maintain our cars and do maintenance every month, so.
And I do want to understand better about the tax situation. I think we need to have that clearly outlined. I know it says here, what it says on the screen, but I think there needs to be clear direction on what it is that we're going to do. And, you know, what are the boundaries, et cetera. And, you know, if we do move forward, maybe it does make sense to start with just people in city proper, just because of their resources that are restricted. Unless we can get a 2-for deal buying a new squad car.
I don't think it's happening.
There's end of year sales, but I don't think that's gonna, but, you know.
Those are some of my thoughts.
So if I may, just so I clarify, so you'd want to find out from a tax professional whether or not that would have to be reported, basically.
How's it gonna be done?
Okay. And then, the next question, you wanted some data in regards to the potential financial implication. So would that be, I guess, are you talking about like strictly for commutes, so to speak?
Additional wear and tear, which means vehicles are gonna wear out faster. Right?
Okay. And then did you want data in regards to either mobile field force or SWAT callouts?
Yeah, that would be nice too.
Okay. Is there anything else that I missed?
I would say insurance implications too. Is anything gonna change on the insurance on the car by having it kept at someone's house rather than at the police station?
I don't believe so, because this was already ran by the city's insurance provider, so I don't think there's any additional insurance costs, so to speak.
I can speak to the wear and tear. I think most of you know, before I left the sheriff's office, my last job there was in charge of the fleet, buying cars, reselling the cars, fuel, all that kind of stuff. Depending on the type of car it is, to Captain Brandl's point, if I'm a unmarked car assignee, 2/3 of the time it's gonna be sitting in my driveway, but it's always assigned to me. So it's not gonna get the 24/7 wear and tear. If it's a regular marked unit, again, 2/3 of the time it's sitting in my driveway. I only work 5 days a week, and 2 days a week, it's gonna sit in my driveway that whole time if nobody else is using it. When I'm on vacation, nobody else is using it. When I'm on days off or I call in sick, nobody else is using it. So again, depending on how, what that primary car's usage is, it may or may not directly impact how long you have with that car before you have to turn it over again and flip it, get a new one. So just kind of a little yin and yang on that.
All right, moving forward then, recommendation is we'll just wait for, this to come back on another meeting, committee meeting for, we can review the proposed amendments, changes?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just another question for Captain Brandel. Can you address when it talks about the civilian member use, what is it referring to?
That's referring to like Teresa or David, our CSO. So Teresa's never used a marked squad. She'll take an unmarked when she's going to training. David has used marked squads when his vehicle's down for maintenance. And then he takes any weapons out or anything like that, and he can use it for his duties. He gives him a light bar in case there's a traffic accident. He comes and assists us with traffic control and things like that. Gives him that opportunity to help us out.
We'll go to item 7 on, moving along here. Discussion and possible decision regarding proposed police department participation in the BOTS program.
Okay, so traffic grants, with the BOTS program, we've participated the last several years with them. And it's run through the sheriff's department. They're kind of the head of the program, and then they kind of branch out and allow us to participate in these grants. The reason we're here is because the grants haven't changed. We just are being held to a tighter standard by the state to get funded by them. So before, they would just post the grant, you could sign up, you'd work in your city, you work your 4-hour grant, make your traffic stops, and whatever the enforcement is, if it's OWI, seatbelt, speeding, those are the 3 enforcements. But the correctly done is you're supposed to select a high impact zone or an area where there's high crash rate of fatal or injury type crashes, and you work that stretch of roadway to try and reduce the number of crashes that occur there. The grant does reimburse us 100% of all overtime wages. Moving forward, so anyways, back to the grant, sorry. So the zones now, they have selected highway zones. So one of the zones, for example, would be County H from Geneva Street to Lake Geneva. Well, clearly not all that is in the city, but in that kind of situation, I think it's something that would be worth us working, having our guys given the opportunity against another voluntary program to go out there and reduce those crashes. As we know, most of our citizens here in town don't just stay in town. They have to leave the city to go shopping, go to work, whatever. So I think if we can make the roadways safer for our citizens, I think it's worthwhile.
I have no issue with this at all. I'm for it.
Dan?
Yep, I agree, I'm for it.
So,
All right, so with that, we have a do we have a motion then to?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'm sorry, can I just jump in on this one too? This is one I have really significant concerns about. In years past, this provided for extra traffic enforcement in city limits. The revision for next year would basically involve our officers patrolling outside city limits. And, you know, we're on the hook for anything that happens. So they make it very clear in the grant requirements that the city takes liability for any injuries to our officers or any injuries that our officers call out to somebody else. So we're taking on extra liability in terms of injuries to our officers, injuries to somebody else, property damage, any number of things. Plus we again are paying for extra fuel, extra maintenance on vehicles for officers to be providing law enforcement services outside city limits. It's one of those things, if anything happens, people are gonna say, why is the city doing this outside our limits for, so this is just one that I have concerns about from administration perspective, so.
I'm sorry, may I speak?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you may have said this and I didn't catch it. BOTS is at what percentage reimbursement this year? 100%?
100% for wages,
And 80% for,
nothing for anything else. We don't get reimbursed for fuel.
and it's straight time or overtime?
Overtime,
And the time and a half they're covering 100%, not 80%?
100%, wages and
Things have
benefits.
changed.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that every year was kind of a moving target of how much of the reimbursement you got percentage-wise, so it's great that it's 100% again. Are you gonna consider, the command staff as eligible to work the BOTS grants like the county moved to eventually?
We have in the past, yes.
Okay, good. I never liked that. I couldn't do it.
Alderman Roberts, what's your thoughts?
I'm still good. I think we should still do it.
I make a motion to move forward with it. And I respect your comments as well, thank you.
Motion, we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll move this, recommend continued participation on.
Just be careful.
All right, well, to the top of the list now. Item number 3, discussion and possible decision regarding proposed revised police department records policy, policy number 804.
So the records policy, I don't know, it was a year and a half ago, the state kind of came out with some new legislation. We wanted to move to be in line with that legislation moving forward to make sure that we're handling records appropriately. And obviously, in the last few years, the request for records has gone through the roof with body cameras and whatnot. So we needed to have a distinct guideline for how to fill them and how to accept these records requests, and when we have to redact, when we have to deny, things like that.
Did you have a chance to read through it?
Oh, yeah, I read all of it.
Dan? Dan,
Yeah, I read most of it.
any thoughts?
I see no issue with it.
No, me either.
Do we have a motion to move this forward to full council then?
I make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, voted. be on the agenda for this council meeting, or whatever for consideration. Next item, discussion and possible decision regarding proposed police department ride-along policy, policy number 404.
So this policy we're putting in place, we didn't have a formal, policy before today. We did have waivers and a request form to ride along. This policy just basically formalizes the process. It does also update to a CIVMIC approved waiver. So they have reviewed that. And like I said, just formalizes the process. We're looking just to have basically students, certain community members, and other law enforcement can ride along just for those benefits. It's not open to just anybody.
Just for information, how often does this happen?
Ride-alongs? We probably get requests, probably half a dozen to 10 a year. 6 to 10 a year probably be my guess.
All right. Have a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Forward?
Aye.
Aye. That gets forwarded, please, to council. And last item here, discussion and possible decision regarding proposed police department off-duty law enforcement actions policy, policy number 341.
All right, so this policy is just kind of laying out the groundwork to follow in line with state statute 175 on what we can and can't do and can't act on off-duty. It does generally discourage off-duty intervention unless it meets that criteria of statute 175.
Any discussion, questions? A motion for moving it forward?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor for moving this forward to full council?
Aye.
Motion passed. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.